Assalamu alaikum, this is Al-Khwarezmi reborn. This is my second video in my introduction to OA level series for Pakistani parents. This series covers all basic and general information regarding OA levels as a whole. In this video, I will discuss the pros and cons of doing OA levels compared to Matric FSE, leaving it up to the viewer to decide which one is in their best interest. To begin with, Matric and FSE are both cramming-based education systems. In recent years, the amount of cramming, commonly known as ratta in Urdu, has decreased slightly, but it still plays a major role in a student's performance. On the other hand, OA levels focus on understanding concepts and developing critical thinking skills. This approach greatly benefits students later in university, where conceptual clarity is essential. In addition, this allows them to perform better in real-world problems because they are trained to solve unseen problems, unlike their FSE counterparts who only know how to solve what comes from the book. This point is discussed in greater detail further ahead. But beyond simply cramming, the examination papers are flawed. Experienced teachers of the board can provide students with a guess paper. Under this name, they provide the exact questions from the standard textbook that will appear in the final exam. They are 100% accurate and do indeed appear. Here is an example video. You can scan this QR code to watch the video. In this video, the kind sir is an old teacher of the Federal Board of Secondary and Intermediate Education. Here he is listing all the questions that are important for the Class 11 examination paper, the 2025 session. I then compared his guess paper with the actual examination paper, and the results were shocking. 8 out of 11 short questions and 4 out of 5 long questions completely out before the exam began. In addition, there are many study groups on Facebook and WhatsApp that provide exam-related content. Here's one such Facebook chat in which they're discussing required papers. On the other hand, in OA levels, students attempt practice papers to get a feel of what the exam will be like and to improve grip over weak topics. But in Matric FSC, students never attempt past papers in preparation for the final exam. They just cover topics repeatedly from the book, which they know will come in the exam. In AQA, Edexcel, and CIA board exams conducted by the British Council, any form of dishonesty in exams is next to impossible. Security cameras and strict invigilation deter cheating. Those caught cheating receive a penalty based on the scale of their offense. It could be receiving 0 marks, disqualification from the examination series, results withholding, barring from future exams, and even notifying universities if malpractice is discovered post-result. However, in exams conducted by Pakistani boards, cheating is common and even tolerated to some degree. Sometimes students even pass papers to those seated nearby to get their opinion on whether their answers are correct or not. Furthermore, take another look at the 2025 session exam paper. In every question, there are 2 options. Thus, a student can skip up to half the paper, making it much easier to get a high final score. On the other hand, in O levels, some subjects do have optional parts and some do not. However, even subjects that have optional, there is always a section with some questions that must be attempted. Basically, a student cannot skip anything that they have not prepared well. If it comes in the compulsory section, then they must attempt it. A-levels exams have no optional parts. A-level students must attempt the whole paper. Subjects in OA levels are also taught in much greater depth. This difference can be seen simply by comparing the size of textbooks from both exam systems. Here is a comparison video. We have first-year physics and second-year physics and AS and A-level chemistry. Now, if we stack the two first-year and second-year physics books on top of each other, then as you can see, they're smaller in height and they are smaller in width and in overall volume in general, both of them combined. But furthermore, when we open them and take a little look, you can see that the word size, the font size of the A-level chemistry book is much smaller than that. In addition, it also has more tables, diagrams, etc., etc. It's far more detailed than the FSC books. And On top of being greater in volume, it's also greater in detail. In addition, A levels offers a wide variety of subjects for students to choose from. Options range from creative fields like psychology, music, and drama to applied subjects like business studies, economics, and law, along with core subjects like English, mathematics, and physics. This allows students to select subjects related to their future career goals. For example, physics, mathematics, and chemistry for those planning to study engineering, media studies, English, and drama for students who wish to enter the film or media industry, and many, many other possible options. The school and tuition fees for OA levels are much higher than those for Matric or FSC. The textbooks are also expensive, often costing several thousand rupees each. Moreover, the registration fee for O-level board exams is around 25,000 rupees to 30,000 rupees per subject. For 8 subjects, the total exceeds 200,000 rupees or 2 lakh. At the A-level stage, the registration fee for a single subject is about 35,000 rupees, which means over 100,000 rupees or 1 lakh for AS level, first year, and another 1 lakh or 100,000 rupees for A2, second year. In comparison, Matric and FSC board registration costs are only a few thousand rupees in total. All OA level exams, except for Urdu, are conducted entirely in English. Therefore, students with weak English understanding may face serious difficulties. However, a key advantage of doing O levels is that it is recognized internationally because the UK education system is up to international standards, giving students greater opportunities abroad. While OA level students have more opportunities abroad, Matric and FSC students are at a slight advantage within Pakistan. Most local universities do not accept OA level grades directly. To apply, OA level students must get the results converted into equivalent Matric and FSC marks through the Interboards Coordination Commission, or IBCC for short. This is a chart of OA level grades and their equivalent percentages, with A star always being between 91 and 95%. In truth, this is the only actual deduction of marks by not giving 95% always for A star. And A is 85%, B is counted as 75%, C 65%, and so on. As you can see. Suppose an A-level student gets 2 A stars and 2 A's and 3 B grades and 1 D grade. That's a total of 8 grades. Okay? So let's assume for that year that A star was 93%. So then you multiply the 2 by the 93 and 2 by the 80, 2 by 85, 3 by 75, and 1 by 55. And then you add up the sums, and that becomes 636 out of 800. Here is an example O-level converted IBCC granted equivalent certificate. This is for a science group. This student received 709 out of 800 marks, or 78.78%. In A levels, IBCC conversion is a little different. Here, the marks gained out of 3 subjects out of 300 is added up with the student's O-level equivalents out of 800. Thus, they are given a final score out of 1100. Here's an example to make it more clear. Let's say the student got 2 A grades and 1 B grade, total 3 grades for 3 subjects. So 2 multiplied by 85 is 170, 1 multiplied by 75 is 75. Now his total A-level marks are 245 out of 300. And let's say, for example, that this random student got 580 out of 800 in his O-level marks. Now to get the A-level equivalents, we add these two sums up. And remember, in O-level equivalents, it's just the O-level marks. But in A-level equivalents, they use both the O-level marks and the A-level marks. So that's a total of 825 out of 1100. The key takeaway here is that you should try to get a much better, very good score in O-levels, because O-levels grades are used both in O-level equivalents and in A-level equivalents. In fact, they make the majority marks in A-level equivalents. Here is an example of IBCC granted A-level conversion grade into FSC marks. Here the group is specifically written, pre-engineering, it could have been pre-medical or ICS, depending on like the subject combination. The student received 885 out of 1100. or 80.45%. When it comes to university admission tests in Pakistan, FSC students have a slight advantage. This is because the entry test syllabus is based on the FSC curriculum, not the A-level syllabus. As a result, A-level students must cover the entire FSC syllabus of the required subjects to prepare well for these entry tests. However, around 70% of the A-level and FSC syllabuses do overlap. Furthermore, entry tests are conceptual, unseen, and not cramming based. Therefore, an A-level student with strong understanding and reasoning skills can still perform better in the test than an FSC student who is used to cramming. However, despite all the drawbacks listed of doing Matric FSC, the simple truth is that such students can also excel afterwards, especially in Pakistan. They can gain concepts by studying Matric FSC, and later on they can adapt into the mainstream learning system in university. Doing OA levels early on gives students an edge, but many big Pakistani names were indeed Matric FSC students, for example, Dr. Abdul Qadir Khan. Now, on this page is the summary of this chapter, all the pros and cons of doing OA levels listed clearly for you to see. Now, an important note, equivalence deductions are not actually a con of doing O levels, since the marks deducted are negligible and insignificant in practice. Now, that is all for this video. In the next video, I will discuss studying at home or home-based education, and it's comparing it to studying O levels via school college. You can also buy my ebook for just 450 rupees. For further information, dial this number or mail me at Al-Khwarezmi@gmail.com.